cutting your own throat. Mm-hmm. And who really is pushing again? He intimidates everybody. World leaders, now he's trying Mexico. He's trying to intimidate the Mexican leaders with a 5% tariff.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely economically suicide. And what they need is to say, Trump, you're a dumbass. Don't send your legion of negotiators to Washington to talk, and try and squeeze in under the deadline that Trump has put of Monday. So you're a madman. That's what you need. You have to hit these bullies right on the nose. Mm-hmm. It's just like all the Nazi activity we see out there, and Darren and I sit here week after week and say, Antifa should be getting your support. Yeah. Antifa is out there. They're the firewall between you and rampant fascism in this country.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, just summarize this whole thing with Nancy's passivity. What's going on in the United States right now needs direct action. Fast, equal to the circumstances, issue by issue. You don't let one thing that Trump throws out without pulling like a skeet and shooting it down. Mm-hmm. Journalists, citizens, you can't let the man have unopposed streams to go down. He'll cut your throat. And we've talked about Antifa many times here. Antifa, that means anti-fascist. How many of the Democratic Party believes that they're as bad as the fascist? Or excuse me, as the fascist.
Yeah, and it's a ridiculous argument. Extremes on both sides is still extreme. Yeah, if it wasn't for Antifa, again, we're having the commemoration, the 75th anniversary of World War II. Do you know, folks, how important Antifa was in the fight against the Nazis?
Exactly.
People forget their history. And it scares the hell out of me. They forget it so quickly. I want to move on before we get into our Hammer Time segment here. We had a poll up on our official Facebook page that you could vote on. This had to do with a story that was published by Vanity Fair magazine. This is by Joe Pompeo and dated May 30th. I'm going to just summarize the article here. Apparently, the New York Times is not allowing its news reporters to appear on television pundit shows. For example, Rachel Maddow, Don Lemon, Lawrence O'Donnell. They didn't mention any of the Fox programs because it's typical that a New York Times reporter would not appear or would not even be invited on a Fox propaganda channel show. So we asked this question of our listeners on our Facebook page. Do you agree with the New York Times or do you disagree with them? And the poll ended, and it was a runaway. 86% of the people polled disagree with what the New York Times is doing with their reporters. Some of our comments that we received on it, because I asked, do you agree with them? Please explain your vote in the comments below. One listener, a report with a face is always nice. Another said, unless all cable news networks are treated equally, I disagree. And I've got this comment as well. I don't believe the interests of the people of this country are served when voices who may have important information are silenced. If journalists are not available to add perspective, all we're left with is partisan hacks who will offer a spin on the subject. And I had to agree there. The spin, we've seen it with Fox. It's more spin than it is, they can say this, the no spin zone. No, it's the entire spin zone, 100% of it. The only one that really doesn't do spin is Shepard Smith. And I wouldn't know that for sure because I don't watch it. You go to my house, it's blocked on my satellite. And you're not going to get the password prying out of my cold, dead hands. Oh, gosh. Speaking out of cold, dead hands, this woman is probably saying, pull the flowers out of my cold, dead hands. Well, who are we talking about? We got to play the appropriate music.
Stop. Hammer time.
Yeah, it is hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. This comes to us from the Tri-City Herald in Washington State. This is by Kristen Kramer, and it's dated Thursday, June 6th. A Richland flower shop's owner broke the law when she refused to design arrangements for a same-sex wedding in 2013, the state's high court ruled. The decision Thursday by the Washington State Supreme Court came after the justices took another look at the case in light of the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in a separate but similar matter involving a Colorado baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple. The Thursday ruling affirms the Washington Court's 2017 unanimous opinion that Barronelle Stutzman violated the state's anti-discrimination law and the Consumer Protection Act by declining to provide services based on sexual orientation. By the way, Stutzman immediately vowed to once again take her fight to the country's highest court. This goes back to 2013, folks. She was asked by a gay couple, Robert Ingersoll and Kurt Fried, to make floral displays for their wedding, and she refused on religious grounds. I'm not going to do that for gay people. So the couple sued her. They complained to the state of Washington because they have a specific anti-discrimination law. So Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson sued her as well. The two lawsuits have worked their way up from Benton County Superior Court to the state Supreme Court, ultimately to the U.S. Supreme Court, which remanded it back to the Washington State Supreme Court. Here's what they wrote in their 76-page opinion. It was signed, by the way, by all 9 justices. Quote, "We have painstakingly reviewed the record for any sign of intolerance on behalf of this court or the Benton County Superior Court, the two adjudicatory bodies to consider this case. After this review, we are confident that the two courts gave full and fair consideration to this dispute and avoided animus toward religion. We therefore find no reason to change our original decision in light of Masterpiece Cake Shop of Colorado." End of quote.
His victory.
Yes. So this suit, again, it goes back to 2013. The original court that heard the case said, no, you broke the law, lady.
Right.
So she appealed and took it to the Washington State Supreme Court. They said, no, lady, you broke the law. Mm-hmm. So she took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, well, we just ruled on this Colorado bakery case. Washington State Supreme Court, you get to look at it again. And now they've said,
I remember the woman in Kentucky that refused to give marriage licenses out to same-sex couples. She lost.
Kim Davis.
She lost as well.
Michelle Storms, executive director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Washington State, said they were pleased that the state's justices recognized the Colorado case decision does not give people a license to use religion to discriminate. Quote, "Religion is a fundamental right, but businesses open to the public must be open to all." End of quote. See, here's the difference between the Washington case and the Colorado case. The U.S. Supreme Court found in the Colorado case that the courts, the lower courts, were hostile toward her religion. Therefore, they didn't exercise the law equitably, so they ruled in favor of the baker in Colorado, where in this case, the Washington State Supreme Court and the lower court is, according to the Washington State Supreme Court, both them and the lower court said, no, we handled it the way it's supposed to be, equitably. We didn't discriminate against her because of her being a Christian. Why is it, Jack, why is it the Christians always want to be the first one to scream, oh my, I'm being discriminated against? Why is that?
Well, they operate on a myth that they're being persecuted, to the lions being fed to the secular lions. They really believe it. Yet the truth is it's quite the opposite. It's the atheist kid in the 6th grade that faces discrimination, not the Christian kids. You want to be elected in this country? You put a cross on one lapel, an American flag on the other.
And hold a Bible and maybe a gun.
Yep. Yeah, so there's no persecution.
So for Barronelle Stutzman, for getting your ass kicked again in court and for being discriminatory against gay couples who all they want are flower arrangements, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. Yep, you're the winner, which means you're a loser. Stop being a douchebag. You know, they said in the article that it's a gay couple. You know what we call them now? A couple.
Yeah, you're darn right. Could you use a douchebag to decorate cakes? Could you put frosting in there and just work that out? Maybe she can use this gift.
Maybe she could. I don't know. Oh, and since we're running short on time, we've got a wild off-the-cuff story that was provided to us by one of our longtime listeners and longtime financial supporters of this show, Pat Snyder. This is by Christine Solomon, who is a style and beauty writer for Yahoo Lifestyle. This is dated Wednesday, June 5th. A charter boat captain was arrested in Florida after getting intoxicated, firing a handgun, and refusing to take his frightened passengers to shore in a nightmarish ordeal that lasted over 17 hours. Oh, wow. Passenger Carlo Lopeparo told Yahoo Lifestyle that he had been on Captain Mark Bailey's boat, the Double Marker, several times before without incident, but this fishing trip was different. Witnesses told Sarasota police that Bailey had consumed multiple beers while driving the boat. One passenger claims to have watched Bailey drinking rum, too, and another alleges that the captain was also snorting cocaine. That, according to ABC Action News.
Forget Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, the one with the boat. By the way, that's a reference to the movie The Running Man with Richard Dawson. Fantastic movie if you haven't seen it.
I saw it, yeah.
About 60 miles out, Lopeparo asked fellow 16-year-old passenger Jason Rialmo to fetch him a beer from a bucket next to the captain. When the teen grabbed the beer, Bailey reportedly banned him from giving it out. Thinking he was joking, Rialmo kept going, so the irate captain grabbed the teen by the neck, ripping off his necklace. Passengers rose to Rialmo's defense, getting into an altercation with Bailey, according to WFLA television. They ultimately decided to let it go, even as the captain continued to imbibe. Later in the boat ride, Bailey told 25-year-old passenger Chris Guffrey he wanted to speak with him, and what the captain shared was terrifying. Bailey reportedly said, quote, "I have a gun, and if I want to, I will put a bullet in each of your heads and leave you out here." End of quote. Chris's father, Christopher Guffrey, told WFLA, quote, "At that point, we were all kind of waiting for something horrible to happen for him to come down those stairs with his gun." End of quote. He was right. Bailey then pulled out a 9mm handgun and fired 6 to 7 shots in the air. Jesus. Well, it all finally came to an end when the captain got the boat close enough to shore that cell phone service was restored. Somebody called a friend for help. They called the police and the Coast Guard, which immediately dispatched boats and promptly arrested this Captain Bailey. By the way, he's charged with several offenses, including drunken boating and resisting a police officer without using violence.
I see a new series there. I mean,
yeah?
Gilligan's been gone a long time.
Bailey's Island.
Yeah, Bailey's Island. The Minnow? What was the name of this boat?
Yeah, the Minnow. What was this guy's boat name? The Double something. Double Marker.
Double Marker.
Well, yeah, he was going to put a cap in him. He'd put double markers out for him, too, out in the great. Anyway. And we're out of time for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Jack Prince.
For our announcer, Kristen Cook, please support the First Amendment and independent media.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.